Me, Simon, 42, data analyst, divorced, no kids, live alone with my cat. My life philosophy is simple. Show up, do the work, get paid, go home. I don't need work friends. I have real friends. I don't need workplace drama. I have bills to pay. I'm the guy who eats lunch at his desk with headphones on, not because I'm antisocial, but because my lunch break is for me, not for the company. After my last company got bought out and my whole department was restructured into unemployment, I spent a couple of months on the job market, sent out hundreds of applications, did dozens of interviews, the usual soul-crushing grind, finally land a pretty good gig at a mid-sized tech marketing firm. The pay is good, the work seems interesting, and the people I interviewed with seem normal enough. The final interview was with the department manager. Seemed like a decent guy, if a little spineless. Kept talking about team harmony and synergy. Corporate buzzwords are like background radiation to me at this point. I just nod and filter them out. He offers me the job. I accept. My savings account breathes a sigh of relief. First day on the job. The office is one of those open-plan nightmares. No privacy, just a sea of desks and the constant hum of keyboards and quiet chatter. Manager gives me the tour, shows me my desk. It's wedged between a nervous-looking guy who introduces himself as Amir and a potted plant that's clearly seen better days. Manager claps his hands together nervously. Okay, team, gather round for a sec. A few people shuffle over. He introduces me. This is Simon, our new senior analyst. Let's all give him a warm welcome and help him get up to speed. A few polite heys and welcomes. Standard stuff. Then one woman steps forward. She has that haircut that screams, I have a strong opinion about everything. This must be Camilla. Manager mentioned her name during the interview, something about her being the unofficial team coordinator. Welcome, Simon, she says, her voice a little too loud. I'm Camilla. Just so you know, we cultivate a very progressive and inclusive space here. We have a zero-tolerance policy for toxicity, and we expect everyone to be an ally. I just nod. Okay. Nice to meet you. She seems to wait for more, but I just turn to my computer and start logging in. First red flag, but I've dealt with office ideologues before. The best strategy is to become what they call gray rock. Be so boring and unresponsive they lose interest. The first week is mostly me getting access to systems, reading documentation, and trying to figure out what the hell the last guy was doing. I keep to myself. I'm polite, I answer work-related questions, but I don't engage in the chit-chat. I start to notice the office dynamics. Camilla isn't just a team member, she's the queen bee of a very anxious hive. She doesn't manage anyone, but she dictates the social rules. I'm in a team meeting, maybe my third day. We're discussing a project timeline. Some poor guy from another department says, the deadline is just crazy. I don't know if we can hit it. Camilla puts her pen down with a loud, deliberate click. The whole room goes quiet. She gives him this pitying look. Can we please not use ableist language? The word crazy is deeply problematic and offensive to those with mental health struggles. A better word would be challenging or unrealistic. The guy turns beet red. Oh, sorry, yeah, unrealistic. The deadline is unrealistic. Emir, the guy next to me, nods vigorously in agreement with Camilla. Good point, Camilla. We have to be mindful. The manager just clears his throat and quickly changes the subject. I realize what kind of place this is. It's a social minefield disguised as an office. My gray rock strategy is going to be essential. A few days later, I get my first direct correction. Camilla walks over to my desk. She's holding a mug that says, "Smash the patriarchy." Hey, Simon, she says, leaning against the sad potted plant. Just a friendly reminder. It's company policy to include your pronouns in your email signature. I noticed yours are missing. I look at her, then back at my screen. It's not company policy. I read the employee handbook. It's optional. Her smile tightens just a little. Well, it's our team's policy. It's a small gesture to make everyone feel included. I give a non-committal grunt. Thanks for the heads up. I don't add them. I figure she'll let it go. It's a small, stupid thing. I was wrong. The next day, she sends a team-wide email. Subject: a reminder on inclusivity. The email is a long, rambling manifesto about the importance of visible allyship and how small things like adding pronouns to a signature are vital for creating psychological safety. It doesn't mention me by name, but it's clearly directed at me. I'm the only one on the team without them. I read the first paragraph, roll my eyes, and archive the email. My job is to analyze data, not to perform visible allyship. My performance is measured in spreadsheets and reports, not in my email signature. The weeks go by. I'm doing good work. I untangled the mess the last analyst left. I've automated a few key reports, and my manager is clearly pleased with my actual job performance. My relationship with the team remains strictly professional. My refusal to play Camila's games has become a silent point of contention. She tries different tactics. She'll start meetings with a check-in circle, where everyone has to share their emotional state. When it gets to me, I just say, I'm ready to discuss the Q3 performance metrics. She'll try to engage me in conversations about current events, clearly baiting me to say something she can label as problematic. I just give vague one-word answers and turn the conversation back to work. Did you see that article about toxic masculinity in the film industry? Nope. Well, it's really... Did you get a chance to review the numbers I sent over for the Apex campaign? It's like playing chess with a pigeon. It knocks over the pieces, struts around like it won, but I'm just there to play chess. The first major confrontation happens about a month in. We're in a brainstorming session. The energy is low, as usual. Everyone is afraid to say the wrong thing. I'm trying to get things moving. Okay, guys, let's just throw some ideas at the wall. No bad ideas at this stage. Camila's head snaps up. Simon, I'd appreciate it if you didn't refer to a mixed gender group as guys. It's exclusionary. I stop and look around the room. There are 5 people present, 4 men, including me and Camila. I look directly at her. It's a common colloquialism, like saying y'all or folks. It's not a literal statement about gender. My intent was to address the group informally. She scoffs. Intent isn't magic. It's the impact that matters. And the impact is that you erase the presence of women in the room. The air is thick with tension. Amir is sinking down in his chair, trying to become invisible. I take a slow breath. I refuse to get emotional. Noted. Now, about the marketing strategy for the new product launch. Does anyone have an initial concept? I completely steamroll past her objection and pivot back to the meeting's actual purpose. She's left sputtering, looking around for support. But no one says anything. They just look down at their notebooks, relieved that the conflict is over. I just broke her biggest rule. I didn't apologize. I didn't concede. I didn't accept her framing of the situation. I just ignored it and focused on the job. She glares at me for the rest of the meeting, but she doesn't say another word. Later that day, Amir catches me by the coffee machine. He's fidgeting, won't make eye contact. Hey Simon, he mumbles. That was pretty tense in there. It was a brainstorming meeting, I reply, stirring my coffee. Yeah, but look, man, sometimes it's just easier to go along with it, you know? Just apologize and move on. It's not worth the fight. I stop stirring and look at him. What fight? She made a comment. I acknowledged it and moved on. The only fight would be if I stopped the entire meeting to have a debate about linguistics. I'm not paid enough for that. Amir looks confused. But you didn't agree with her. My job doesn't require me to agree with her on social issues. It requires me to analyze data. Are we done here? He shuffles his feet. Yeah, I guess. Just trying to help. The best way you can help is by getting me the finalized data set from your team by the end of the day, I say, and walk back to my desk. I'm not trying to be a jerk to him, but his weakness is enabling her. He's part of the problem. His desire for a quiet life is what gives her power. He's the audience for her theater, and I'm refusing to watch the show. Camila's campaign against me escalates. It becomes more passive-aggressive. In team chat, she'll post articles with titles like How to Deal with Difficult Personalities in the Workplace, or The Importance of Emotional Intelligence for Team Cohesion. During meetings, if I present a counter-argument to one of her ideas, she'll frame it as a personal attack. Wow, Simon, no need to be so aggressive. We're all on the same team here. My counter-argument was, the data doesn't support that conclusion. If we shift the budget that way, we'll see a negative ROI based on last year's numbers. I start documenting everything, just in case. Every passive-aggressive comment, every email, every time she disrupts a meeting. I just keep a simple log file on my personal drive with dates, times, and a brief description. I learned that lesson the hard way at a previous job. Always cover your ass. The other team members are starting to notice my immunity. They see her tactics fail again and again. She tries to publicly shame me, and I just don't get ashamed. She tries to lecture me, and I just pivot back to the work. She tries to paint me as an aggressive monster, but my calm, monotone delivery makes her look hysterical by comparison. I see small changes in the others. One of the younger guys, a junior designer, makes a joke during a presentation. It's a harmless pun. He immediately looks at Camilla, terrified. She's about to say something, but then he catches my eye. I give him a very slight, almost imperceptible nod. He doesn't apologize for his joke. He just continues his presentation. It's a tiny act of rebellion, but it's a start. Another time, a female colleague in accounting, who is not even on our team, asks me a question about a report. She ends the conversation with, "Thanks, man." Then her eyes go wide, and she looks over her shoulder as if expecting Camila to materialize out of thin air. Nothing happens. She gives me a small, relieved smile. The spell is breaking. People are realizing that the monster in the closet is just a woman with a bad haircut and a need for control. The turning point comes during a high-stakes quarterly review meeting. The department head and a few other senior managers are there. This is a big deal. Our team is presenting our results for the last quarter. Camila is up first. She's in her element. Her presentation is full of jargon, buzzwords, and feel-good statements about synergizing our core competencies and leveraging our inclusive pipeline. It's 10 minutes of corporate nonsense with about 30 seconds of actual information. Then it's my turn. I'm presenting the hard numbers, the performance data, the ROI on major campaigns, the user acquisition costs. The numbers aren't great, the market is tough, and a few of our big campaigns underperformed. I'm not there to make people feel good. I'm there to present reality so we can make informed decisions. I put up a slide showing a graph with a very clear, very steep downward trend. As you can see, I begin, the Summer Splash campaign resulted in a 15% net loss, with customer acquisition costs exceeding lifetime value by a factor of 3. The room is dead silent. The senior managers are frowning. Camilla decides this is her moment to swoop in and manage the situation. She raises her hand. "If I can just add something here," she says, standing up. "I think it's important that we frame this data correctly. We don't want to create a culture of fear around failure. These were learning opportunities." I keep my eyes on the department head. "It was a $200,000 learning opportunity." Camila flushes. "Simon, your tone is very negative and unproductive. I have to say, presenting it this way is incredibly stressful and, honestly, a bit of a trigger for the team who worked so hard on this." This is her nuclear option, using therapy speak in front of the bosses to paint me as a workplace bully. I don't even look at her. I address the department head directly. My tone is factual. The data is the data. My job, as I understand it, is to provide an accurate, unvarnished analysis of our performance to enable effective decision-making. If we pretend this 15% loss is a learning opportunity instead of a critical failure, we are guaranteed to repeat it. The question for management is not how we feel about this number, but what we are going to do differently in Q4 to fix it. I click to the next slide, which is titled Q4 Strategy Recommendations Based on Q3 Data. The department head looks at Camila, then at me. He has the look of a man who has been sitting through hours of corporate fluff and has just been handed a glass of cold water. He nods slowly. "Continue, Simon." I continue my presentation. Camila slowly sits down. She's been completely and utterly sidelined. I didn't attack her, I just made her argument look irrelevant and childish by being hyper-professional. I finish my part, and the rest of the meeting is focused and productive. The managers are asking sharp, specific questions based on my data. The entire mood has shifted from vague platitudes to concrete problem solving. For the first time since I started, it feels like a real job. After the meeting, as everyone is filing out, the department head pulls me aside. "Good work, Simon," he says, his voice low. "That was refreshing." That's all he says, but it's enough. It's a clear signal that competence is still valued over performance art. As I'm walking back to my desk, two of my other colleagues quietly fall into step with me. One of them, A quiet guy from the design team just says, "Holy crap, man." The other one, a woman from content, just shakes her head and smiles. "Never thought I'd see the day," she whispers. Camila is sitting at her desk, staring at her monitor, her back ramrod straight. She's radiating pure, uncut fury. She knows she lost. She lost control of the narrative in a very public way. I sit down at my desk and pull up a new spreadsheet. Time to get back to work. But I know this isn't over. She's not the type to accept defeat. She's been publicly humiliated, and a person like that doesn't just get mad, they get even. I open the log file on my personal drive and add a new entry for the quarterly meeting. I make sure to be as detailed and objective as possible. Something tells me I'm going to need it. The quiet war was over. The real one was about to begin. The atmosphere in the office changed after that quarterly meeting. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic shift. It was more like the slow turning of a tide. Camila's power had always been perception-based. She was the arbiter of what was acceptable, the enforcer of unspoken rules. Her authority came from everyone's collective fear of being the next person called out in a meeting. When I challenged her in front of management and not only survived but was validated, it shattered the illusion. She was no longer the scary monster in the closet. She was just a coworker with annoying opinions. Her strategy had to change. Direct confrontation had failed spectacularly. Her public lectures were now seen as cringe, not commands. So she moved on to a campaign of social isolation. She started organizing optional team-building lunches. An email would go out to the whole team, except me. I'd see them all get up and leave together, with Camila leading the pack. It was so transparently childish, it was almost funny. I didn't care. I valued my quiet lunch hour at my desk. Them leaving meant the office was even quieter. It was a win-win for me. She would huddle with Amir and a couple of her other loyalists, speaking in hushed tones and glancing over at me. They were trying to create an air of conspiracy, to make me feel like an outsider being judged. It didn't work. To feel like an outsider, you first have to want to be an insider. I just wanted to be a guy at his desk, and I was succeeding at that beautifully. What she didn't count on was that her absence created a vacuum. When she and her little clique were out for their team building, the rest of the office relaxed. The junior designer, the one who'd made the pun, actually came over to my desk to ask a question about data visualization. "Hey Simon," he said a little hesitantly. "Got a sec? I'm not sure if this chart accurately represents the demographic shift you were talking about." This was a big deal. Before, a question like that would have gone through Camila, who would have facilitated the conversation, turning a 2-minute query into a 15-minute lecture on collaborative processes. We spent 5 minutes looking at his design. I pulled up some data, suggested a different chart type, and explained why it would be more effective. "Oh wow, that makes way more sense," he said. "Thanks a lot." "No problem. Good work." That was it. A normal, productive interaction between two colleagues. But in that office, it felt revolutionary. More of this started happening. People would bypass Camila and come directly to me or other senior people for work-related matters. Productivity actually went up. Small problems that used to fester for days while people tried to figure out the correct way to approach Camila were now being solved in minutes. She saw it, of course. She saw her social capital draining away. Every time she came back from lunch to see people talking and collaborating without her, her expression would get a little tighter, a little more strained. Her comments became more pointed, more desperate. She started dropping phrases in team chat about cliques and uncollaborative behaviors, a rich irony that seemed to be lost on her. She was losing control, and it was making her reckless. I knew she was planning something. A cornered animal is a dangerous one. I just kept my head down and continued to update my log file. The opening salvo of her final attack came in the form of an email from the manager. Subject: a quick chat. Never a good sign. I walked over to his small, glass-walled office. He looked more nervous than usual. "Close the door, Simon," he said. I sat down. He steepled his fingers and stared at them like they held the secrets of the universe. "So," he began, "look, this is awkward. Camila has raised some concerns." I waited. I didn't say a word. "She's filed a formal complaint with HR. She claims your communication style is creating a hostile work environment for her." I felt a strange sense of calm. The other shoe had finally dropped. "She says your behavior is intimidating," the manager continued, refusing to look at me. That you're dismissive of her contributions and that she feels unsafe. Unsafe, the magic word. The one that makes HR departments everywhere snap to attention. Okay, I said, my voice perfectly level. My lack of a reaction seemed to throw him off. Okay? That's all you have to say? What would you like me to say? These are baseless accusations. I'm happy to discuss them with HR. Well, that's the thing, he said, squirming. To show we're taking this seriously, HR has recommended a formal mediation session, just the three of us, to talk things through. I understood immediately. This wasn't about finding the truth. This was about procedure. It was about HR and management being able to say they did something. They wanted me to go into a room, get lectured, probably be told to apologize for Camila's feelings, and then everyone could tick a box and move on. This was her trap. She was going to get me in a room where it was my word against hers in front of a weak manager, and she was going to perform the role of a lifetime as the trembling victim. I see, I said. When is this meeting? Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., conference room B. I'll be there, I said. I stood up and left his office. That evening, I did my preparation. I went through my log file. I organized it, cleaned it up, and added my own objective summary. I listed every instance of her disrupting meetings, making passive-aggressive comments, and interfering with the work of others. I cited dates, times, and the names of others who were present. It was a damning document, all based on observable facts, not feelings. Then I drafted an email. I sent it to the head of HR and CC'd my manager. The subject line was mediation meeting preparation. In the email, I stated that I was happy to participate in the meeting to resolve the complaint. I then wrote, given the serious and subjective nature of the accusations of feeling unsafe, and to ensure a completely accurate and transparent record for the protection of all participants, I will be making an audio recording of the entire meeting. I believe this will aid in a fair and factual resolution. I attach my meticulously kept log file to the email. I hit send at 8 p.m. The board was set. The pieces were in motion. The next morning, I walked into conference room B at 9:59 a.m. Camilla was already there, sitting opposite the door. She had a notepad and a pen. She had clearly been practicing her concerned but resolute expression in the mirror. The manager was there too, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. I took a seat. I placed my phone face down on the table in front of me. Thanks for coming, Simon, the manager started. The goal here is to... Before we begin, I said, cutting him off politely but firmly. I just want to confirm that you both received my email last night regarding the recording of this session. The manager's face went pale. He hadn't seen it. He clearly didn't check his email after hours. Camila's expression flickered. For a split second, her mask of victimhood slipped, revealing pure, unadulterated rage. Then it was gone. Recording? She asked, her voice feigning innocence. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with that. This is supposed to be a safe space for an open conversation. It is, I replied calmly. A recording ensures it stays that way. It protects you from me misrepresenting your words, and it protects me from the same. It is the very definition of a safe space, one based on accountability. The manager was fumbling with his own phone, presumably to find my email. Camila saw she was losing ground. I don't consent to being recorded, she said, crossing her arms. That's your right, I said. However, since I have been formally accused of creating an unsafe environment, I do not consent to participating in an unrecorded, undocumented meeting to discuss those accusations. If you wish to proceed without a recording, we can end this meeting now, and I will let HR know that you decline to participate in a transparent resolution process. Checkmate. She knew she was trapped. Refusing to talk now would look incredibly suspicious. The manager, having finally found my email and probably seen the attached log file, looked terrified. He was no longer a mediator. He was a man in a legal minefield. Okay, he said quickly. The recording is fine. Let's just talk. Camila, why don't you start? Explain what's been going on. She took a deep breath, recalibrating her performance. She had to proceed, even on this new, more dangerous stage. She began her monologue. It was a masterclass in corporate jargon and weaponized therapy speak. Thank you, she said, her voice trembling slightly for effect. It's just, ever since Simon joined the team, there's been a shift. There's an energy, a very aggressive masculine energy that is frankly toxic. I remained perfectly still, my face a neutral mask. He's dismissive, she continued, her voice gaining confidence. He shuts down ideas. He uses a tone that is very condescending, especially to the women on the team. He makes unilateral decisions and refuses to collaborate. It's a pattern of microaggressions that has created an environment where I no longer feel psychologically safe to contribute. She looked at the manager, her eyes wide and pleading. I come to work to do my job and be part of a team. I shouldn't have to feel anxious and intimidated every time I walk into a meeting. I shouldn't have to feel like my voice doesn't matter. People like Simon, they're the reason women leave the tech industry. She finished, a single perfect tear rolling down her cheek. It was a 10 out of 10 performance. In an unrecorded meeting against a weak manager, it would have been devastating. The manager looked at me, his expression pleading with me to just apologize and make this go away. I let the silence hang in the air for a full 10 seconds. Then I spoke, my voice low and clear. Thank you for sharing your feelings, Kamala. I leaned forward slightly. Now, let's move on to the facts. You made several specific claims. Let's address them one by one for the record. I picked up my phone, but I didn't turn it on. I just held it. You said I am dismissive. Could you please provide a specific example of an idea I dismissed, including the date and the project it related to? She blinked. Well, it's not one specific thing. It's a general attitude. I see, I said. So, no specific example. Let's move on. You claimed I use a condescending tone. Tone is subjective, but perhaps you can recall the specific words I used that you found condescending. Again, with the date and the context of the conversation. I don't write down everything you say, she stammered, her composure starting to crack. It's the way you say things. So, no specific words. Understood, I said, making a non-existent note on my own pad. You also stated I refuse to collaborate. My log, which I have already forwarded to HR, details over 50 collaborative sessions I've had with various team members in the last 2 months. Can you provide a single instance where I refused a direct request for collaboration on a work-related task? She was cornered. Her entire case was built on a foundation of feelings and vibes, and I was demanding concrete. This is what you do, she finally burst out, her voice rising. You twist things. You use logic and facts to invalidate my experience. That's a classic gaslighting technique. I looked at the manager. For the record, I am being accused of gaslighting for asking for evidence to support a formal HR complaint against me. The manager, who was now sweating profusely, finally spoke up. Camila, you need to provide some concrete examples. Simon is right. We can't act on a vibe. That was it. She had lost him. She had lost completely. Her face crumpled. The performative single tear was replaced by a flood of genuine angry tears. This is unbelievable, she sobbed. I come here as a victim, and you're treating me like the problem. This whole system is designed to protect men like him. I feel so unsafe right now. She stood up, knocked her chair over for dramatic effect, and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind her. The manager and I sat in silence for another 10 seconds. He looked at me, then at the door, then at my phone on the table. He finally let out a long, slow breath. Well, he said, his voice a hoarse whisper. I think that's enough for one day. I stood up. I will be sending the audio file of this meeting to HR to attach to the official case file, I said. Thank you for your time. I walked out of the room, leaving him alone with the mess. The fallout was swift and decisive. HR called me in for a formal interview the next day. It was a different tone this time. They weren't treating me like a perpetrator anymore. I calmly walked them through my log file. I played them key snippets of the meeting's audio. I answered all their questions factually and without emotion. My message was simple. I have no personal issue with Camila. My only goal has ever been to do my job effectively in a professional environment. Her behavior has consistently disrupted that environment. They then interviewed other members of the team. With Camila's power broken, the floodgates opened. People told the truth. They talked about the constant lectures, the meeting disruptions, the atmosphere of fear she created. Amir, to his credit, gave a full account of how she would pressure him and others to conform to her rules. The narrative she had carefully constructed of a toxic man bullying a poor, defenseless woman was completely demolished and replaced by the reality: a toxic woman bullying an entire office. A week later, we all got a generic email from the manager. "Today is Camila's last day with the company. We wish her well in her future endeavors." She was gone. She didn't get a farewell party or a card. A little after lunch, she walked to her desk, silently packed her things into a cardboard box, and was escorted out by security. It's standard procedure, but for her, it felt like the ultimate humiliation. She didn't look at anyone as she left. The moment the elevator doors closed behind her, it was like a physical weight had been lifted from the room. Someone in the corner let out a nervous giggle, and then someone else did, and soon half the office was just smiling in shared relief. The office became a normal place to work again. The tension was gone. People talked freely. Jokes were told, without anyone glancing over their shoulder. Meetings became shorter and more productive. A few days later, Amir came up to my desk. "Hey," he said, looking at the floor. "I just wanted to, say I'm sorry for, going along with all that. It was easier, but it wasn't right." "Forget it," I said, not looking up from my spreadsheet. "Just focus on the work." He nodded. "Yeah, okay." He seemed relieved. That's all I wanted. Not an apology, not a victory lap. I just wanted a place where the work was the point, where competence mattered more than conformity. I had won, I guess. But it didn't feel like a victory. It felt like I had just successfully taken out the trash so that everyone else could finally get back to work. And for me, that was more than enough.